Hello and welcome to my video. Have you ever heard of Pokemon? You probably have. With over 230 million games sold in the main series and Pokemon Go being downloaded over 500 million times, Pokemon is one of the best-selling game series of all time. The goal of most of the Pokemon games is to capture and battle Pokemon. This is done using a rather ingenious invention, the Pokéball. But what would happen if you had one of these devices in real life? In order to answer that question, we first need to understand how a Pokéball functions. There are two main possibilities. Either it works like a shrink ray, or it converts the Pokemon's mass directly into energy while simultaneously logging the location and momentum of every single subatomic particle using a supercomputer. Well, first things first, let's talk about the first possibility. Maybe a Pokeball works like the Pym particles from Ant-Man, changing the shape and density of the object being absorbed, but not the mass. Well, this can't be the case, because all throughout Pokemon's canon you see people carrying Pokeballs. If this were truly how it worked, then, depending of course on the contents, the Pokeball would weigh hundreds, even thousands of pounds. Quick side note, but this is also a problem with the Ant-Man movie. See this guy? Yeah, he would be sinking through the floor right now. Why? Because he is about 7,000 times the density of the densest stable element known to man, or about 1/10 of the average density of a white dwarf. Going back to the topic at hand, if the Pokeball now weighs hundreds of pounds, why not just have the Pokeball destroy some of the mass from the object inside? That seems to be how most shrink rays in fiction work. I mean, if something is the size of an ant, then it probably weighs as much as one, right? Well, this leads us to another problem, seeing as such a thing would be impossible. This is because of the first law of thermodynamics, which states that in a closed system, energy cannot be created or destroyed. This is also known as conservation of energy. But wait, that refers to energy, not matter. Well, that leads us to the second of our possibilities. This one. So what does this mean? Let's start out with the first part of it, converting an object's mass into energy. For this we will use Einstein's famous equation E=mc², which means energy is equal to mass times the speed of light squared. What Einstein showed with this equation is that energy and matter are the same thing in different states. That is why the first law of thermodynamics applies to the previous situation. Moving on, let's try converting the mass of a penny into energy. After some simple math, we get 2.79 times 10 to the 14th, or 279 trillion joules. How much energy is that? Well, that's equivalent to 66 times the amount of energy released by the little boy fission bomb that dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. Wait, that doesn't sound right. I mean, nuclear fission is one of the most efficient ways that humans have of converting matter into useful energy, and little boy weighed almost 10,000 pounds. How could a penny produce more energy than that? Okay, first of all, nuclear fission is not nearly as efficient as a Pokeball would need to be. This is because fission only converts a comparatively tiny amount of matter undergoing the reaction into energy, while the rest of it is just converted into other elements. Secondly, only about 1% of the uranium in the bomb actually detonated, with the rest being blasted away. So to answer the question I posed at the beginning of this video, what would happen if a Pokeball existed in real life? We would have power. Everyone would have power. Electricity would be more plentiful than drinking water, all for just 7 metric tons of material per year. And that material could be anything, from nuclear waste to garbage to carbon dioxide. Literally anything that has mass could be made useful. Having a Pokeball could not only produce 100% efficient, sustainable energy until the literal heat death of the universe, but it could also remove all the pollution we have or ever could have, saving quintillions of organisms in the process, and put millions of people out of work. After all, electricity production is a very large industry, and all of those jobs would become obsolete once we have power that's only limited by the amount of matter we could get our hands on. Okay, so it's not all positive, but let's take a look at our hypothesis again. I have already discussed the first part of it, so I will now focus on the second part, along with something that is implied by this, but I have not yet stated. I'll talk about the implied thing first, which is that the Pokeball would need to store the energy that it is absorbing. The most massive Pokemon weigh almost a metric ton, which means that a Pokeball can store at least 8,332,500,000,000 kilowatt hours. If scientists were able to backwards engineer the part of the Pokeball that stores energy, then they could use that to make batteries that could hold quadrillions of times the amount of energy that they already do. Instead of your phone battery lasting a day or two, it would be able to last trillions of years on a single charge. Also, see this? This shows that charging any device would take seconds instead of the several hours that it takes now. Moving on, I will now talk about the supercomputer that is somewhere within this device. But why would it need a computer, and why specifically a supercomputer? Well, in order to explain this, let's imagine a Pokeball absorbing a human. Okay, simple enough, it just converts the mass into energy and then stores said energy. Now let's take the person back out of the Pokeball. Nice, everyone's dead. This is because, without a computer, not only did the Pokeball not know what type of matter to convert the energy into, but it didn't even know that it was supposed to convert it into matter in the first place. So, instead of recreating a person from the energy, it just released all 30 septillion joules at once, creating an explosion about 10 times larger than the energy released by the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. Okay, so a Pokeball would need a computer in order to convert the energy into mass. But how powerful would that computer have to be? Well, I don't know exactly how to calculate that, but knowing that an average human body has about 7 times 10 to the 27th atoms in it, and more than 6 times 10 to the 28th subatomic particles, along with the fact that the information for all of said subatomic particles, their quantum states, and their interactions with the surrounding particles, could not be compressed in any way as that would lead to an imperfect copy, it is safe to say that the computer involved would need to be many times more powerful than any technology we currently have. Because of this, if scientists were able to backwards engineer the technology of a Pokeball, then capitalism would probably cease to exist. Let me explain. With a fully backwards engineered Pokeball, not only would you be able to convert matter into energy, but you'd also be able to convert valueless matter, like trash, into energy, then convert that energy into more valuable matter of the same mass, like perfectly pure gold, or counterfeit cash indistinguishable from the real thing, or name brand products in perfect quality, or diamonds the size of basketballs. The list goes on. So why would you buy a brand new phone when you could just make 30 of them from a bag of garbage? And why would a business accept your money if inflation has caused all forms of currency to be made worthless? Now, instead of a couple million people being put out of work, everyone is jobless. But not homeless. Everyone is now self-sufficient. They can make their own food, water, electricity, electronics, clothes, vehicles, and even duplicate the energy matter device that they already have. Everyone now has access to anything they could ever want, which can lead to 4 or more possibilities. 1. Someone converts a couple dozen kilograms of matter into energy and then releases it all at once, killing most life on Earth, like in the human example. 2. Everyone gets bored, so they start exploring the solar system. 3. Everyone gets bored, so they build a virtual reality world. Or 4. Some combination of the previous 3. The first one is probably the most likely scenario, seeing as everybody would have the power to destroy all life whenever they wanted. Even though most people probably wouldn't even think about killing everyone, all it takes is one person. If any sort of government still existed after the spread of the matter-energy converters, regulating them so that an average Joe couldn't just kill all life might just be impossible. If they programmed the matter-energy converters so that they couldn't release the energy that they convert, then people could still make Tsar Bomba-level nukes with the press of a button. So the answer is clear. If you don't want the world to end, don't let the public have Pokeballs. Well, that too would be impossible. If just 2 of them were released from the government's grasp, someone could duplicate them exponentially. Assuming that you could make 1 every 2 seconds, then within just 66 seconds, there would be more than enough Pokeballs for everyone on Earth to have one. This of course would not be how long making that many Pokeballs would actually take, seeing as gathering up several billion kilograms of material in a minute is quite ridiculous. Realistically, it'd probably take under a month for almost everyone on Earth to have one. Now knowing that everyone would probably die, let's move on to the second possibility. They start exploring the solar system. This is pretty simple, as being able to store matter in the form of energy would make space travel magnitudes easier. Just put a bunch of energy into a battery, attach whatever you want to bring into space, then put on a rocket. Now just convert the energy into fuel at will. A ship like this could probably reach Mars in a matter of days. Once landing on a planet like Mars, terraforming it would be a breeze. Just turn the soil into air and water. Boom, no more population problem. The human race is free to expand exponentially. Like a virus. Next possibility, creating a virtual reality world. A Pokéball would already give us all the technology necessary for this. You have practically unlimited power, and a computer that can map all the quantum properties of subatomic particles. Just mass copy Pokeballs, connect their computers together, do some programming, and done! A virtual reality world nearly indistinguishable from our own. So what have we learned? Although having a Pokeball in real life would probably lead to the end of humanity, if it didn't, then we might just be able to make a spacefaring, world-creating utopia. But we don't see this in any of the Pokemon games, movies, or the show. Which means that either they don't know how to fully exploit this technology, or I am wrong in my assumption of how a Pokeball works. Either way, I hope you enjoyed watching. Bye.